Hey. Okay. This will be meandering. This may or may not be the sixth time I've tried to record this video. This will also be the beginning of my vlog for my Independence Foundation Fellowship in the Arts fellowship. Today it is Sunday, February 2nd, 2025. I have been here in Fort Lauderdale since January 18th, 2025. And wow, so much has happened. I think that I had a mental block to starting this vlog. Actually, I know that I did, and maybe even still do, but I'm doing it now, so that's good. So much of what I create and so much of what I do as an artist, especially as a theater artist, is made for public consumption, right? It's for an audience, for someone somewhere to have an opinion about it that's outside of myself. And I think that, as I am developing my voice as a playwright and as a writer, there is less of a barrier between public opinion and my interiority. And if not my interiority directly, the things that I'm passionate about and care deeply about and are telling stories about are often so wrapped up in what I meditate on every day in some way. So I wanted to do this blog, and I wanted to do a public part of this fellowship because I want to develop my muscle for critique and criticism, and also, I think I want to continue to develop the practice of imperfection in the pursuit of that, because so much of my personal and artistic life has been in pursuit of polish. So with all of that, I will give a little bit of a rundown of all the things that I can remember I've done since January 18th, which is when I got down here. Some of y'all may not know this, but I am on this fellowship because I am writing a play with my friend Zachariah Julian, and this play is called Ever. It's a play with music. We know that it's going to investigate global warming. We know that it's going to investigate Seminole and Afro-Seminole indigeneity in the Everglades specifically. We know that it's going to be a multi-year creative process. It already has been. And we know that we really dig working together. So when the opportunity came to me to apply for this fellowship, I knew that I wanted to apply with a project that would challenge me and that I knew the least about. And so this play and the pursuit of knowledge for this play, historical, cultural, creative, all of it, was a sure fit. So I'm down here in Fort Lauderdale to find what this play is, and start, experimenting with some avenues for what it can be. And I'm also here to learn as much as I can about the Seminole and Afro-Seminole community, and learn as much as I can about what it means to be in the Everglades. And I say be as like live, to be in relationship to it. And I'm also here to generate creative material for this play specifically, but also for myself. in this last week that I've been here, I've been doing a lot of writing for myself and a lot of tabulating and thinking and like musing and all of the things. I've been generating a lot, um, and that's been really, really beautiful. Um, yeah. So one of the things that I surprised myself in doing in this last week was renting a bike, which is a big deal for me because I thought I lost the skill, and I know that there's the saying of like you'll never forget how to ride a bike, but bike riding is so bound up in so many things for me, and so mental blocks are something that is a common occurrence in my psyche. And I think there was a mental block there about like what it meant to pick up a bike again. Um, but I picked up that bike and I've been riding around, and that's been my primary way of transportation because I don't drive. I don't drive, and where I've needed to go, especially to connect with the Seminole community, has been about an hour away, mostly only accessible by car. And so I knew that like I needed transportation that wasn't just going to be my 2 feet. So a bike has been excellent for getting around, and especially Uber and Lyft down here in South Florida in the more like urban centers. It's great. It's also expensive, so thank you, Fellowship, for subsidizing that. Um, but but yeah, but the more rural, the more out there places you can't really grab a lift for. So yeah, and that leads me to one of the biggest highlights of the trip so far, and definitely like probably the likely to be the most challenging thing I have done here, which is camping in the Everglades. Uh, yeah, so grateful. Gray came down and was my guide and my rock for a few days as we drove to Flamingo, Florida, Flamingo Everglades in Everglades National Park. And we glamped for our first night, which was great, just to like warm up our sort of like, we're getting back into the rhythm of camping. By the way, Gray is a huge reason why I even thought to camp. So very grateful to you for teaching me how to do that in Pennsylvania before coming down here. So yeah, we arrived at Flamingo Everglades and did a night of glamping, and then the next day we canoed out to Hell's Bay through mangroves, and we saw a crocodile and snakes and fish and all the things. We canoed to the Hell's Bay Chickie, and for folks that don't know, a chickie is a raised house, literally translates to house, and it was beautiful. We camped overnight, surrounded by water and the lush vegetation of the Everglades, the swamp. We were in the swamp, and it was just a sky full of stars. That's one thing that, whenever I'm able to travel outside of the city or travel outside to places where there isn't a lot of light pollution, I'm just so taken by the stars. Yeah, and the next day we canoed back through Hell's Bay to where we started. We got lost a couple of times, but we made almost the same exact time as we did when we came out. So 4 hours canoeing in, for about 4 hours and 12 minutes canoeing out. If you don't count the times that we got lost on the way back, I think we were quicker. Actually, I know we were because our technique with canoeing was so much better the first time. And that was the first time I've ever done anything like that. I did whitewater rafting um, in high school. That was like our freshman year orientation day activity, and that felt very different than what this was. I think this was harder because the swamp, first of all, is the swamp. There's wildlife and all of that, and seeing that crocodile on the way up was really, really scary, but also really, really surreal. We were, it, it was, I'm really bad at like how, about like measuring things, but if that crocodile wanted to get us, it absolutely could. I'm sitting in a room right now that is um, sort of like a living room area, um, and the crocodile's on the other end of the living room. Like that's how far away it was. So not that far, and it was surreal. It was surreal, but this was absolutely the hardest sort of water sport that I've ever done. Yeah, I mean, it's called Hell's Bay for a reason. It was like hell getting in and out. Just the amount of like, whoo, 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 whoo. Um, yeah. So that was a excellent, very full experience. I still have the camping equipment too. Gray's gone now, but I think I do want to do some more camping during this fellowship. Um, I'm going to do some more investigating about where I can do that, but I have all the gear, so might as well. Even if it's out in my backyard. But camping in relationship to the land is so important for the protagonist of the play that I'm writing, ever. And it was really nice to sort of imagine and create from a place of lived experience in the Everglades. So that was wonderful. I also, this weekend, went to my first powwow, and I was not prepared for how emotional and transformative it felt. And when I think about my own relationship to indigeneity, I think about first Black history. Um, and I think about all the ways in which Black people and have been taught to dissociate from place and from belonging. You're not this, you're not this, you can't be this. If you are this, then you're a lesser version of it, or and it's a beautiful thing to be Black, and Black American specifically. It's its own culture, it's its own community, it's its own soul. And to be at a powwow specifically, and to see so many different kinds of people, non-native, native, just united in celebrating community and togetherness. It was just really, really moving. It felt like everyone belonged, like, and maybe that's part of my own sort of cocktail of I don't know, projection, but it felt like no matter how you answered the question, where are you from, it was the right answer. Or at least a little funny, you know? and not in a way where like folks were laughing at you, but laughing with, um, as if to acknowledge the complicatedness of that question in the laugh. Yeah, I think that I mean, this is the truth. I write a lot about race and identity, and my inspiration for the play is an ancestor that I have, named Ethel, and she was Afro Seminole. Um, and I interviewed my mom and my aunt about her before I came here, and there isn't much information that we know about her interiority, because she was a very soft-spoken woman, and it was just what I've learned. And my grandmother, um, Grandma Pringle, is not with us anymore, and she would have known. She would have known better than maybe anyone. Um, but yeah, I think that for all that I don't know about Ethel, just being at the powwow this weekend helped me understand her steadfastness in claiming her indigeneity, and her power in her power, I guess, just her power. Um, yeah, I think that there are like complicated questions about blood quantum across Indian Nation, and I think that it's a slippery slope to eugenic science, but I also think that there are really, really important reasons as to why blood quantum matters to certain tribes and to what it means to be indigenous as well. Um, we have similar conversations in the Black community about what it means to be Black, and I can say some really contentious things about that. But something that I do feel is true is that a connection to Blackness goes beyond a genetic marker or a percentage on one's, I don't know, 23andMe, whatever those weird sites are, Ancestry. Yeah, it's about a connection to the culture. It's about a connection to language. It's about a connection to music and food and family and all of the things that you think about when you think about a soul of a people. It's about a connection to that in a tangible way. And when we get into conversations about gatekeeping, what it means to be Black, I think that these are things that we factor into it, right? And it does, come down to cultural connection, community connection, phenotype often, and sometimes even class in America, because class and culture go hand in hand, in Black America at least. And so, of course, these conversations about blood quantum in Indian Nation are going to be naughty. Of course, of course, of course. And I think they have a right to be. I think that, it's such a intra-community thing, I can't say, as someone who was not raised Seminole, was not raised Creek, was not raised Cherokee, which are the three that float around in my family in genetic markers and DNA tests. I'm not Native in that way. Like I'm just not. And so, yeah, I think that it all has to be a case by case sort of situation, and I think that all of these things have to be taken into consideration when you're looking at an individual and whether or not they are or are not Native, or are not Black. I also say all of these things with like through clenched teeth and with balled up fists and anxiously, because like this is in a way like the hardest play that I will write in the foreseeable future, because I am writing characters and at least partially a story about a people that is not directly birthed from my lived experience, right? I'm writing about an ancestor's experience, even though tangentially, and I'm writing, thankfully, based off of the good faith of folks that will come in and out of this process, whether they're collaborators or community members, folks that have lent their stories even already to the work. And that is like nothing to underestimate. And I am very grateful that I am being trusted with, even in this early part of our process, and being trusted with the ability to tell the story. And I'm also like not going to let hubris get to me and think that I like know everything or have been stamped approved or something like by a Native community. Like, that's not at all what I want to project, and I also don't want the story to be that. If anything, I would want the story to be interrogating that very idea, which is a very hot button, even out of this specific context. Who gets to tell whose story and why, and how? So yeah, I've been thinking about all of those things, and really excited to uncover things that I'm not even aware of in the making of this. Not even just like story beats, but I am really excited to uncover more of my soul as a writer, and also like very like honestly and earnestly express my personal connection to this story through my characters, and through Drew, who right now is the protagonist of the play. Yeah. So this vlog, this blog will be probably inconsistent. I'm aiming to have at least 3 videos accompanied by, all the photos that I've taken, and maybe a little bit of writing here and there. But yeah, I'll be excited to especially look back at all this unedited video, and have it be sort of like a time capsule for where I'm at in the process of this play, but also in where I'm at in the process of myself as a playwright. because I'm still finding my sea legs. I have a hunch that we never stop finding our sea legs as writers. Um, I'm staring at this book that I've just finished, that I bought for my birthday back in the summer and just finished, so I'm a little shamed about it because it's so short, but it's called A Story That Happens by Dan O'Brien. I cried for like 20 minutes yesterday after I finished it. And I'm still processing it, but I know that this book has been a revelation. So thank you, Dan. I can't wait to read your plays. This is the first thing I've ever read of yours, and you're very smart and very thoughtful, and thank you. So yeah, I will see y'all at some point. Stick to this channel if you want to keep abreast of updates about my fellowship. Something that I do know will happen is that I will be sharing a song and a scene from Ever at the end of my time here in Fort Lauderdale. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. Thanks. Signing off. Have a good night.